Claudia Ralston today. And Claudia, I was thinking back as a kid, since my grandfather was a railroad engineer. Back during the Depression, he got bumped down to fireman for a little while, but that was the worst.
That's hard work.
I know, but with 12 kids, you work a lot. What I remember is all the old magazines. He had all these railroad magazines. So going to Grandpa's, for Thanksgiving and that was really fun because I got to see all of that. So I had an interest in it from the beginning. But what we like to do is show you a little bit about what Claudia has, and we start with G-scale.
Right. This is a G-scale locomotive. It's Climax. It's not typical of most of the trains you would see. It was usually used in logging areas because it had gears such that it could pull heavy loads and go up and down hills. But that's the scale we're talking about, a G-scale train.
Oh, I mean, I just drool when I see those. But it takes a little space. Now these you can run outside.
Oh yes, you can run them inside or outside. You don't leave them outside if it's raining or snowing, and it's not because they're not made well. It's today's world, they all have so much electronics in them that when the moisture gets in, it really kind of screws things up.
Absolutely. Still drooling. Sorry. Okay, what else do we have?
What else do we have? Well, let's put him down. To keep the store going.
You call him him, huh?
Well.
Ships
yeah.
are men, or women, rather. So.
I guess. To keep the store going year-round, since outdoor trains are kind of limited to when it's a little warmer than it's going to be recently, I moved into the children's lines, and I have the wooden trains for children, both Chuggington and Thomas and his friends. So that kind of added to the fun there also.
I have a ton of track for what's the one that just started before these, sort of the original wooden railroad.
It could have been Brio.
Yeah, Brios. Back with 5 kids.
Yes.
So I have more than I have room for,
Oh, well, it's interesting because I have a train table, and the little kids love it.
I have one too.
And it's really interesting because there's one of the young men who always puts everybody to sleep in the roundhouse before he leaves. So they're always tucked away.
How old is he?
I think he's going on probably 4 by now.
Very good. Yeah, and those are fun. See, I think sometimes I like the Brios better than the kids did.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yes.
All right, what else do we have?
Well, when I was expanding, since there were things for Junior, when Mother was coming in to look, I wanted to move into some other things like what Mary Jane might like. And so I moved into the Melissa and Doug toys, and I have a number of them that are, hands-on, some are creative, they're all playthings. I always enjoyed these because when I had paper dolls, I always lost the tabs on the clothes. Well, these are nice because they're wooden and they're magnetic and they just don't come apart, and you can play forever.
Hey, when I was a kid, they didn't make toys. I mean, it was the war and they just didn't make them. I remember how pleased I was when they finally began to make even little plastic stuff.
Yes.
You could, I could buy a plastic ship,
Yes. And Jeeps. And Jeeps, of course. And then, of course, for the family, we moved into things like puzzles. Lots and lots of puzzles. Most of them, practically all of them, are, of course, train related. And some of them by very famous train people. Ted Blaylock is one of the people who people actually come in and ask for by name for the pictures he's done. But they show all seasons and the new trains and the old trains, and they're really nice. And one thing that I finally just have recently moved into is one of the things that people look for is when they're dealing with their displays is they want something that's helping them out. So I moved into what is called LEDs. And the particular ones that I have are pre-wired, because a lot of people don't know what resistor to put on an LED and how to wire it in, and even if they do, they don't want to take the time.
Yes.
And so these all come pre-wired, and you can use them with AC, DC, or DCC, You can also use them in doll houses, in dioramas. It's an all hobby toy.
Well, tell me, of all the trains, what's your favorite? Do you have one? Maybe it's more than one.
I don't know that I have a favorite so much. I think the one that fascinates me the most is the one that's called the Big Boy, because it literally was the biggest train that ever ran, and it was a steam engine. And in G-scale, there is one company that brings it out, and from the front of the locomotive to the back of the tender is over 5 feet long.
Whoa.
So you can imagine what it was like in real life.
What was it used for?
A lot of times it was used in areas like in Wyoming where they had the long coal trains, because it had lots of power.
Long climbs.
Right.
I went on an interesting one this summer. I went to Mount Washington in New Hampshire. Have you ever been there?
No.
Well, they have the world's worst weather, or that's what they claim. They had a 230-mile-an-hour straight line wind there.
Wow.
And it's a clog railroad. It was the first clog. President Grant went up. And it's fascinating because that's still the way you get up the mountain is on this old clog. Have you ever dealt with any, or do they ever make anything like that?
LGB used to make them, and it actually had the track and the gear on the bottom of the train, and it's built like this, but the cabin is like this, so it's in an angle as it goes up the hill.
Right, that's exactly the way they do it. It was very interesting. Got to the top and, oh my, it was only 60-mile-an-hour winds gusting to 70.
Oh,
so I lost my cards and a few other things up there. But still, well, you have motivated me. I'm going to try this year. I don't know if I'll have time, but I'm going to try to get out some of my old stuff for the grandkids. My big problem is keep their hands off of it so they don't mess it up.
Now, you sound like, do you know the cartoon For Better or For Worse?
Yes.
Well, Lynn's husband actually had G-scale trains. And there's a couple of them where, first of all, it was a daughter who was out, and then it was a granddaughter, and he kept saying, don't handle this, don't touch that. And she went off crying and said, he won't let me play with his trains.
Yeah. Well, I know there's a bit of that, but I do want to preserve them.
Right.
Well, that was a lot of fun, Claudia.
Thank you
for being with us today on Wichita's Biz That Is, and we'll see you the next time.